Dear friends and colleagues, I am sorry I could not join you on the occasion of this important meeting to celebrate the 5th anniversary of the Rabat Action Plan. Your meeting could not come at a more crucial time. Your findings and recommendations could not be more required. About 3 years ago, in an event at the Human Rights Council that was also meant to reflect on the Rabat Action Plan, I had said, half jokingly, half seriously, that I was looking back to 2012 with nostalgia. This is now the end of 2017, and I have to say 2012 looks very much like the heyday of tolerance in comparison. How different is 2017 from 2012? To me, that must be the entry point into the conversation, and I wish to highlight 5 differences, but there are many more. The first one is that hate speech, which may or may not amount to incitement, in my view has become far more commonplace than it was 5 years ago, including and particularly because it is articulated by political leaders and elected officials. Elections have brought to power individuals with an ultra-right agenda, while narratives, which used to be the prerogative of very extremist French movement, have now become mainstreams. In some cases, the congruence between religious hatred and politics has been deadly, as the situation of the Rohingyas painfully demonstrates. Second difference, social media platforms are now on the direct front line of the fight against incitement, but also on the fight to protect freedom of expression. They were not that clearly present in our initial meetings 5 years ago. In my view, they are central to any strategies to respond to incitement to hatred in 2017. Online hatred, online incitement, silence. They are effective censorship weapons, as effective as others. Thirdly, what constituted localized, small or larger armed violence or political violence in 2012 have now morphed into full-blown warfare, most often regional or international in nature and involving many parties, such as Iraq, at least until recently, but also, of course, Syria and Yemen. Fourthly, ISIL or Daesh has replaced Al-Qaeda, always more ferocious in its hatred of those that do not abide by its dogma. Defeated militarily in Iraq and Syria, it remains nevertheless highly effective at killing hundreds of civilians, as was recently seen in Sinai. But it also remains effective in terms of propaganda and hatred. And finally, the national security and counterterrorism framework, which was already very present in 2012, has now become undoubtedly all-encompassing and global. The T term, unclear to begin with, has not become clearer despite international effort, largely because it is used by some governments to describe anyone who disagrees with the authorities, including human rights defenders. So these are some of the distinctive features, I believe, of 2017. You probably will find far more and others to reflect upon. What do they mean for Rabat +5? I will share with you here some of my preliminary answers. The first is that, in my view, Rabat +5 must continue to insist on a solid and meaningful legal framework and stay clear of the popular terrorism or counterterrorism framework. Responses to incitement and hatred, including on religious grounds, should be based on international human rights law, international criminal law, international humanitarian law. These were the basis for the Rabat Plan of Action, and there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that they are the only legitimate and valid basis for Rabat +5. They are the enduring ones too. On this legal front, I want to add 2 points. First, The position articulated in Rabat regarding blasphemy remains as relevant as ever. Their repeal is a priority in terms of human rights protection, including protection against hatred. And secondly, I think Rabat Plus 5 may wish to consider responses to speech that falls short of incitement, but may nevertheless be of a nature to undermine the right to equality. These speech do not necessarily warrant a legal response. In fact, most of them do not, but they demand attention, particularly on the part of civil society and religious leaders. The second implication for Rabat Plus 5, in my view, is that it needs to reflect on responses to situations when officials, including elected officials, engage in campaigns or advocacy that amount to incitement or in any case constitute forms of hate speech, including, largely in fact, on religious grounds. What is the role of other governments in such situations? What is the role of other officials in the same government? How can they effectively respond to incitement to religious hatred emanating from elected officials? There has been one case study recently involving the UK and US government, which may prove useful in that reflection. A third implications for 2017 Rabat is that there are new crucial partners that must be brought in the reflection and in the actions. I have already mentioned social media platforms. A Rabat Plus 5 online strategy is essential, one that recognizes and balances both the protection of online freedom of expression with effective responses to hateful content. Civil society is a crucial actor that was not included in the 2012 plan, at least not directly. They must be now. I welcome their participation to this meeting and commend the organizers for including a focus on CSOs and NHRIs in the agenda. This is particularly crucial at a time when the civil society space is shrinking. Needless to say, there is not much peaceful activists, human rights defenders, or interfaith leaders can do to curtail hatreds when they are behind bars. Civil society, including community-based organizations, can bring in communities particularly vulnerable to hatred, either as victims or as possible perpetrators. They can reach out far more effectively than official actors. They can convince, they can protect, and they must be protected too, including against imprisonment. Religious leaders have also an important role to play. They were not included in the drafting of the original Rabat plan, although they are referenced in the text. They are crucial partners and actors. While some have been inciting hatred, many others have done all they could to respond effectively to such messages. For that response, some have been killed, others live in exile, many are in prison or under house arrest. The questions I have for you is, how do we more effectively protect and empower the religious voices and religious messages of peaceful coexistence? I wish to highlight here the Faith for Right initiative of the OHCHR, adopted and embraced by religious leaders around the world, as an example of an initiative which I think can do a great deal against hatred. It comes alongside another initiative at the UN level, the Plan of Action for religious leaders to prevent incitement that may lead to atrocity crimes, from the UN Office for the Prevention of Genocide. These and other initiatives demonstrate the richness, the commitment, the energy, the creativity of many around the world. Rabat Plus 5 must also take stock of those very positive developments, highlight them, learn from them, and support their implementation. These are just some ideas I wanted to share with you as you are beginning your meeting. I am sorry I will not be present to hear from you about all the work that you have been doing to implement the Rabat Plan of Actions, your ideas, the challenges you have confronted, and your recommendations moving forward. But I have no doubt that this will be an extremely fruitful meeting. I wish you all the very best for the next 2 days, and we'll end with congratulating the organizers for taking the lead in organizing this meeting and for bringing you all together. Thank you very much.